Yeah, welcome to this week's Outfitter Tales, and this week we've got a short for you. So 3 things we're going to bring you this week. So it will be a short. Well, not be that short, probably the way things run. Yeah. We're going to cover the bees. We're going to cover the bees because we've been asked about bees. We're going to do a little bit of an introduction on deer dogs and what we want to do with deer dogs, and just a little bit of an update on what Rab's been up to this week. I don't do any work anyway. So what have you been doing? Or what are you going to do?
So this week I'll be mostly up in Argyll. Basically, after we finish doing this, I'm heading up to Argyll. Basically, one of the farmers is up there, re-drilled loads of silage fields, replanted them all, and the deer are on there. Obviously taking away some of his grass. We've got a couple of our syndicate guys up there.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go up there.
I think 3 guys up there at the minute.
Yeah. Just basically see how they're doing, how they're getting on, and it's also a good recce for me for the next few coming weeks when we've got a few clients out up there on the early stags. Yeah,
because we've got the stags coming. Busy, we're always busy on stags. This is now August. This is the height of summer. We were hoping to film this outside and get Zosha up here and all the rest of it, but it's flipping horrendous. Sasha's heard the weather, so she's sat in the office on a chair, and we're sat in here with it, banging it down. So we're inside.
I'm off up to Argyll and probably one of the rainiest days of the year.
We should qualify it because I was wondering about going down actually and coming down one morning and maybe doing a bit of filming because we want to have a look at the stags, but nah, it's bad forecast, storm coming, lots of this stuff, I ain't going. You can do it.
Skin's waterproof.
So that's it. So what we've got coming up?
Oh, and obviously we've just been doing some filming for
bees.
The bees.
Okay, as promised, several people have been really interested in the bees, so I'm still trying to get Rab into a bee suit, but the weather conditions have been appalling. So what we wanted to do was show the next stage of how honey gets out the kind of bees and into the pot, into the jar. So these are called a clearer board. So when the supers, which are, I'll show you in a minute what they are full, this is a clearer board. It actually allows me to get the bees from the frames back down into the main hive, if you like, into the house. So I sit that on top of the last frame that I want the bees to get access to. So it sits like that. The bees will drop down into here, and then they'll work their way out into the corners and then get down into the hive, but it's very difficult for them to get back. So once they've come through, it's difficult for them to get back, hence the name clearer board. So if I've got a couple of supers on, and I will show you what they are so you know what I'm talking about. So if I've got a couple of supers sat on here that are full of honey, full frames, full of bees working them, while I've got my suit on and a little bit of smoke, I'll put this onto the top of the lower section of the hive, and then I'll put the supers back on top of this, and then I'll put the roof back on. And over the course of 24 hours, the bees that are in here will work down and go back down into the hive where the queen is, and up here then will be left the frames of honey minus most of the bees. There'll still be 1 or 2 in there, but they're all right, I'll just fly off. So basically that's the clearer board, and I actually put those on the hive yesterday, and it was a horrible day. We were hoping to film this, but it just wasn't nice, and the bees were a bit stroppy because it wasn't really nice, and there's no way I was getting Rab in a bee suit with stroppy bees. So what we've got now then, these are actually the supers. So I think Rab can probably pan round onto these. So these are actually now full of honey, which I've cleared, and there are 3 more to take off. So there's 3 more of these to take off. Now, that's difficult to lift. And these are ram jam packed. I'll take one off that's easier to get out. Those are so full it's hard to get them out. So here's one I prepared earlier. So this now is a frame of capped, almost fully capped honey. So you can see probably with the light shining that's all honey in there in those little hexagonal frames which the bees have drawn out, and this is what's called the capping. So this is a wax cap that's gone over the top of a frame. The ones in here are completely full. Every one of those is completely full to the top, and it means the bees have got the moisture content, the water in the honey completely to the right consistency, and then they create a wax capping on the top, and that will keep for virtually ever. They've found honey that's been jarred in sunken ships from days gone by, and the honey's perfectly good. So the honey will not degrade or deteriorate once it's got to that state. So what I will do with these when I start to process them is I'll get a sort of sharp knife or an uncapping tool, and I'll basically cut the wax capping off, so it will open up the whole of the frames to this little hexagonal, and then these go into a spinner, and I'll get Rab to turn the camera around in a minute and just show you how they fit in there. So basically then I can run 6 of these through the centrifugal spinner extractor at a time, and then it will sling out, the centrifugal force will throw the honey, which is now capped out, into this stainless steel tank. It'll settle, and then I can drain it into a tub, and we'll show you what one of those are in a minute, and the honey then is just bottled. So that is the process. But I promise you that this year I will get Rab in a bee suit, and we're actually going to do something with a hive, but we just need some blinking weather. I mean, this is August and it's horrendous. So what is going to come out of there now, quantity wise? I mean, I can't lift those 3, cannot lift them. It's probably going to be close on another 200 pounds of honey coming off here. And the one thing to say is now that I will not take any more honey off these bees. There's still plenty of time. I've left plenty of honey on for them. So this is their winter food. So the reason the bees are doing this is that's their food that will keep them through the winter, right through into the spring of next year. When the weather's good, they can fly a little bit, even during the winter, as long as it's warm enough. And there's pollen available to them most of the year. But this is their winter store. So they almost go into they'll still fly when the weather's warm, but they'll cluster and go into a kind of a semi-hibernation state in a ball for the colder periods of the winter. And cold does not kill bees. They cope with it quite well. The big problem for them is damp. So if you get a really horrible wet conditions, it's damp, you get condensation in the hive, that's what they don't like. So not really worried about cold weather, but what we're worried about is really damp weather. So we want good air and ventilation through for the bees, let them fly for cleansing flights. So basically that's the next stage of the process, extracting. This is the second batch of honey that we're coming out of here, and a lot of this nectar, this honey's come from roseberry willow herb, which is actually a weed really, but we get a lot of it around here, and it produces a lovely clear, very sweet honey. And a lot of this I suspect will be from, there'll be lots of things, but mostly there'll be a lot of roseberry willow herb honey in here, and that is absolutely beautiful. It's almost white. It's a superb honey. So I'll just get Rab to spin round. This is the honey extractor, and I can get 6 frames like into the extractor. So basically, I mean, this is stainless steel, so this is obviously sat in the shed where we work, so this will be fully clean. So it's stainless steel all the way around, so it's ready for a clean before I actually use it. But basically these frames sit in the extractor, and I can get 6 of them in, electrically operated, and that will spin at a fair old rate of knots, and that will throw out the honey onto the wall of the stainless steel tank, and then the honey will settle down. I'll spin it for about 2 or 3 minutes. Just pause a moment. Rab's just got a little honeybee on him and frightened to death, and they're lovely little things, and he doesn't like them, so I'll put it out. So there's one of the girls, needs to go back to the hive. Go on. So that'll work its way back. You didn't panic too much.
No.
Well done.
Kept still.
Well done. They're very friendly. So probably spin for about a couple of minutes, and then I'll turn that round. So it does one side first, and then flip it round, and there's another one just dropped in there. And basically, so there's a few little bees, a bit dopey now because it's cold. So that can go back out as well. Go back to your hive.
2 seconds, mate. Just obviously, me and my freakish nature here.
You going back?
Go back here.
Rab.
Show something. That was what was right above my head, and that's where they were falling off of.
Oh, they've gone up towards the light. I'll move them out later on. So basically that's it really. So the honey bucket will sit under there, filter on top, open the catch, and then the honey will just run down through a strainer into that. The end result of that process, liquid gold. really beautiful. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that. It is something that he didn't. I was going to get Rab into the suit. Anyway, I covered that on that clip, but I was going to get Rab in the suit, but he was not having any of it. And even there's a few little bees whizzing around there, but to be fair, he was reasonably brave, so he's building up his tolerance to bees. But we really want to get him in a bee suit, and I would like to film when actually just handling a few bees, just to see that process. But anyway,
small steps, baby steps.
But yeah, baby steps. Anyway, so bees. So hope you enjoyed that one.
So what we'll look at now is a wee bit of dog training.
Right, so one of the things we've been asked an awful lot about, and actually too many people to name, because we'd like to name the people that are asking us questions for the sort of shows, the things we're going to cover, is the dogs. And I think that a lot of that stemmed from Rab. One of his bitches had puppies. We've had an awful lot of comments and questions about various things about dogs, sort of training, bringing them on, selection of dogs, which breeds are best. So we're going to start and cover that, kind of like in a little mini-series. So just introducing what we plan to do with that is primarily I'm going to sort of cover my thoughts on deer dogs, and I've worked, my background really is primarily working gun dogs initially, and I've hired a dog from being about 20 years old, so that's a lot of years. The last 20 sort of years I've been working with dogs specifically for deer, and sort of prior to that it was kind of in the field, initially rough shooting, rabbits, and then latterly into game shooting because I ran a couple of big game shoots. So my experience primarily has been with the traditional breeds of Labrador, Cocker Spaniel and Spaniel. And the first dog that I used for deer was a field trial trained Cocker Spaniel who was very, very good. The issue from me as a deer stalker is that she's trained to be very quiet, she's trained to stick religiously to my side, and she's quite a small dog. What I found and I wanted to as my stalking career developed was a dog that kind of worked out in front of me. So the first dog that I got involved with deer wise was a Bavarian mountain hound, latterly was a Weimaraner, and then currently is a German short-haired pointer. So in the next full episode what we'd like to do is bring you some library footage, because I did originally with the shooting show start to do a little bit of a series about the Zosha when she was a pup and bringing her on to various stages in a working career, and I did some of that, but to be honest with you never really finished it or never did it properly. So we've got an ideal opportunity now with Rab, who's got a couple of pups, is that we can follow the training of Rab's pups, you know, at various key stages throughout the process of training, and that's an awful, you know, we get asked for that an awful lot, so we're actually going to do that. But initially we'll cover my dogs, we'll produce some library footage next week from the dogs working at various stages, and give you a bit more of my thoughts on how and what I want from a deer dog, and then we'll move on to, if you like, continue the series with Rab, who will follow on with his thoughts on how he wants a dog to work, deer dog and working dog, because Rab's intention is to train one primarily for the field, as in game shooting, rough shooting, and the other one's going to be dedicated deer. So it'll be quite interesting to see that develop. And also, I was talking to Rab the other day about this. His bitch obviously has just delivered pups, and he's got a young dog as well. So he'll be sort of working a little bit with the dogs, the utility dog he uses for both game and rough, and just bit of refresher training. So I'm not really going to cover any more of that because I want to cover that in depth next week. Primarily we'll be looking and focusing on the 3 dogs that I've used for deer since I sort of started operating as an outfitter 20 odd years ago. So again, keep the questions coming in because we would like to cover and answer them.
Yeah, so guys, hope you enjoyed that. Obviously that's the first insight into the sort of dog training. We're going to be doing a big massive series all the way all through. Also, we've got some footage of Zosha, and she was a younger pup, and some of the stuff that Chris was doing with her. But over the next sort of probably 2 years, hopefully, we'll be taking you through the progression of training for my dogs.
Yeah, I think it'd be quite nice to follow that through. because we've both got different, I mean, broadly speaking, we use the dogs the same way, but sort of differences, subtle differences, so it's quite interesting. People can draw their own and formulate their own sort of plans on how they want to work a
I
dog.
just want to quantify this as well, guys. Obviously, our dogs are deer dogs. They're not tracking dogs. They will track and they will find deer, but they're not what you'd so like the UK deer tracking services, those guys you can call out if you lose a deer. Our dogs will probably do it, but we're not qualified to do that, and they're not being tested to do that, like following a 2-3 day trail.
Yeah.
So
mine will, but again, not done. There's
loads of testing.
There's a particular qualification. You know, well, it's come from Europe. This actually, we're not going to get too deep into that because that information's out there, but they actually test their dogs. There's a standard, there's a tracking standard. They put them through. It's a bit like our working a field trial test and working test for gun dogs, and basically have a similar thing in the continent and over here now, where you can do the same thing. And a lot of the information about deer dogs and a lot of the training and rationale, a lot of the books written about deer dogs really come on the back of that, which is actually through the European organisations, and they're very, very, very strict on it, particularly breeding from dogs. They have to achieve certain standards, which in a way was kind of equates to our working test and field trial championships, but it's even a higher level than that. I mean, for example, Bavarian mountain hounds. I trained a Bavarian mountain hound, and you couldn't breed. Yeah, we'll cover that in a minute. You couldn't breed. We've covered that already. You couldn't breed off the Bavarian unless you could go back. I think it's 5 generations, and there's to be no sort of crossbreeding. And it was very difficult because Bavarian mountain hounds at that time, talking about probably 18 years ago, there weren't that many. But anyway, we'll bring you quite a bit on that in the coming years, hopefully.
Yep.
But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that and found it informative. Okay, as always, thanks for watching. We've enjoyed doing this one, but it was only a short.
I didn't.
He didn't enjoy the bees, but I enjoyed watching him not enjoying the bees. And as always, keep sort of liking, subscribing. Don't forget the competition is coming to an end shortly. And it's good night from me.
And hopefully I'll be able to get myself back from Argyll with this weather. Cheers, guys.